If you keep finding yourself in relationships where you feel ignored most of the time, you feel like your partner's running away from you, or maybe you feel like you're the one doing everything in the relationship, you're the one planning things, you're the one cleaning up after the person, you're the one that's over functioning in the relationship. It's not just bad luck. Not all men are trash. There's something else going on here. It's called attachment style. You probably have an insecure attachment style. And if that does not resonate with you, maybe you're constantly finding yourself in relationships where you feel smothered, where you feel like your partner is constantly nitpicking every single thing you do, like you feel constantly criticized. That also, not just bad luck. You have an attachment style issue, because here's the thing about attachment styles. The thing that attracts you to a person is ultimately the thing that is going to trigger your core fears the most. If you're new here, my name is Charlotte and I make videos for people who want to get out of their own damn way. We talk about tools and strategies that can help you live the life you love. So if that's something that resonates with you, please interact with this video, leave a comment below, let me know you exist. And also it really helps if you could like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because subscribing is apparently just like funsies now. Like, it's not real anymore. You have to hit the bell. So I really appreciate you being here. In this video, we're going to talk about attachment styles, insecure attachment styles, what it means to be secure and what that actually looks like, and how you heal, because no one talks about that stuff, especially the fact that you actually need to heal in a relationship. Also, please forgive the dark kitchen. I'm having a bad chronic pain day and I really want to make this video for you guys, and this is the way I can get it done. So it's not gonna, I made graphics. I mean graphics for you. It's gonna be pretty. It's just, I'm sitting in a dark kitchen because my foot really hurts. Okay, thank you so much for understanding. Most of what I'm talking about today comes from these two books by Dr. Angelica Shields. I will link her and these books down below. She explains all this very well. If you're only gonna buy one of them, I would get this one if you want some sort of actionable steps for healing. Like, this one has so many more actionable steps for healing, and also has like some brief introductory stuff about attachment style in the beginning of this book. I would get this one if you are more interested in understanding the depth of attachment style. And then it has some healing stuff at the end that it's comprehensive, but this one is much more comprehensive when it comes to like healing exercises. They both have the same quizzes in them. They both have a lot of the same information in them. This one goes into more depth about like childhood development and all of that. And this one talks more about how to heal with your partner in a relationship right now. So highly recommend. I read this book 3 times and I still feel like I need to read it again. There's so much in this book. I also have started creating notes for you guys, because so many of you have said you take notes while you're watching my videos. So I've created Google Doc notes. You can find the links for everything in the description. I'm going to ask you if you want to opt into a future newsletter. Please be honest. I don't want anyone to get the newsletter that doesn't want to get it. So thank you so much for being here, and let's actually get into it. What are attachment styles? Attachment styles, in short, are how you show up in a relationship. It's how you handle emotions and intimacy, and also conflict. And essentially what is happening is, it is a stress response in your nervous system. Your nervous system is detecting danger in the environment from things that are not actually all that dangerous. Your ego is feeling threatened. And when I say ego, I mean your sense of self. It's like, who are you and are you safe? And attachment styles form as a result of 2 things. Your inborn temperament, like your personality as a child, and also your caretaking experience. Were your caretakers paying attention to your feelings as a child? Were your caretakers guiding you through all of these very icky feelings when you were a kid? Or did the child in the family system have a job to do? Did the child have to manage other family members' expectations and feelings? Did the child have to pretend like everything was okay and dismiss and avoid things? Did the child have to analyze everything in order to make sure they were safe? These are how you get insecure attachment styles. When the child is having to do work to attune to the adults in their life instead of the other way around. So it is very much a combination of biology and environment. However, Dr. Shields is actually working on a new book that talks about neurodiversity along with trauma and with attachment styles. It all gets very complicated when you try to talk about it at a high level. Like, looking at an individual person may be a little easier to understand it and parse it out. But when when we're trying to categorize people in this way and give people broad strokes of how, like, the flavors people might come in and how they may behave in a relationship, a lot of things can look like, for example, borderline personality disorder, when in reality it's just a very dysregulated person who's dealing with a lot of emotions they don't know how to deal with, right? Or someone could have autism or ADHD instead of like actually having trauma, and they're just emotionally dysregulated. So take all of this with a grain of salt. There is, like, I don't want you to think that, like, oh, I'm definitely this category and all this stuff. Like, I don't want you to be so rigid and prescriptive about what I'm going to tell you with these categories. There's a lot going on. We're complicated as people. There are 3 insecure attachment styles and 1 secure attachment style. And let's talk about the secure attachment style first, because it is the goal. It's what we're all striving for. People with secure attachment have the core belief that I am me and my partner is my partner, and how they behave and the outside world behaves does not change anything about me. Securely attached people do not feel like their egos are good per se. Like, they think of themselves as flexible. They're subject to change. They can tolerate when the outside world is signaling to them, including their partners, like it's signaling to them that they might be inadequate in some way. They might be have some sort of unpleasant characteristic about themselves. Maybe they're uncooperative. Maybe they're impatient. Maybe they were just rejected. Maybe they feel lonely. But they know that this is a temporary feeling, and they've been triggered and reminded of it in some experience in their life. And they're like, oh, no, it'll go away. I'm fine. I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings. This is a temporary emotion that I can just let pass through me, and I will be okay. People with secure attachment styles, they find each other, and they don't usually have a lot of conflict in the relationship because they're not triggering each other back and forth the way we will see insecurely attached people doing. A secure response in a relationship involves allowing your emotions and your perspectives and mistakes and your limitations to exist without attaching catastrophic meaning to them. A lot of people in my comment sections have expressed confusion about what detachment means. And this is sort of what I'm getting at when I talk about how to detach, how to stay unbothered. Frequently, when people are assigning too much meaning to everyday things or things people say, things outside of themselves, that's when they start to get attached to things, and they start to let external things and things people have said bother them to the point where they are emotionally dysregulated. Their thoughts are leading to feelings, which are leading to actions, and it's a vicious cycle. People with secure attachment can express small frustrations with their partner or criticisms without them being escalated. For example, if you have 2 securely attached partners in a relationship, one of them can say, hey, hon, I just really need some space tonight. Like, can we do our own thing? And the other will not take it personally. They will not internalize that request. They trust their partner is telling the truth. They trust their partner really does need some space to themselves. And they trust that it is not a reflection on them. That is ego security. That is what we are after. I am me, my partner is my partner. How my partner behave, what my partner says is not a reflection of me. What they do differently than people with insecure attachment, it's called attunement. So it means that they're noticing and engaging with their partner. And we will talk about that in the healing section. But they're noticing their own emotions, and they're noticing their partner's emotions as well. And that is very important, because people with insecure attachment styles also are not attuned to their own emotions. They don't know what's going on inside of them. And that is a big part of this. Securely attached people can respond with acceptance and validation instead of reacting defensively. So if partner A says, hey, hon, I really just need some space tonight to decompress. I've had a long day at work. Like, is that okay if we do our own thing? Partner B will be like, I totally get it. I know you've been working so hard. They've attuned, they've reflected back like, yes, I see you. I see you've been working really hard. Let's look at this attachment chart now. Let's start with the top. Avoidantly attached people want to avoid emotions and conflict. This can look like placating. This can look like making a joke in a serious moment. It can look like stonewalling in the silent treatment, getting defensive and preemptively defending themselves instead of listening. It can look like over-functioning. It can look like constantly doing things for their partner instead of engaging with their partner. Like, I'll fix the dishwasher, but I'm not going to have any sort of exchange with you about our emotions or anything scary and vulnerable like that. Now, there are 2 subtypes of avoidant attachment. The first type is afraid of ego insult. They are afraid of being seen as defective in some way. They truly believe that any criticism is attack on their sense of self and their worthiness. They do not feel valuable as a person. They're terrified of criticism. They're terrified of being seen as defective. And they're going to think, I can't get anything right. I'm never going to win. I'm overwhelmed. I'm confused. I'm inadequate. I need this to stop. I'm defective. I need to make my adequacy known to my partner by defending myself against these attacks against me. And what is the attack? The attack is their partner reminds them they forgot to walk the dog. And they feel like, oh no, that is them pointing out that I am defective, that I can't do anything right, that I'm so dumb and forgetful, I forgot to walk the dog. This person, which Shields calls the ostrich, feels it is an attack against them. And the internalizing aspect of it is they're actually going inward with their core fear of ego, insult, and criticism and defectiveness. So what this looks like when they're in the internalizing category, and we're going to talk about the right column in a second, but the ostrich will have a tendency to problem solve the second their partner expresses any sort of feeling, because this person has been taught to dismiss emotions. They've been taught in their childhood to avoid. They are probably a golden child. They have no feelings and no needs. They may change the subject also because they do not want to deal with icky feelings. They also will explain their own perspective as soon as their partner expresses anything, because they feel like they need to defend and they feel like they need to explain away emotions. They attend to other things and ignore their partner in order to avoid the feelings. So they'll get really busy at work all of a sudden if they're having a bad spat with their partner, and like they just don't come home at an early hour because they figure like, oh, if I come home at bedtime, like she won't want to have a conversation then. And this person also has a tendency to be more rigid in nature. Like they like to categorize things. They like rules. They like order. They have rigid black and white thinking in a lot of situations. So the other thing to know about this chart is this right column, externalizers. In times of extreme stress, people develop core beliefs that help protect them from their core fears. So in this internalizing column, where most people start out, you are internalizing your core fear of whatever the ego neglect, the ego insult, whatever the ego fear is. And it's turning inward and it's really uncomfortable. But there are situations where someone is extremely stressed out over a prolonged period of time that they will start to externalize core beliefs. So instead of turning inward, their partner becomes the problem. Everyone else is the problem. And as a result of that, they start to get more controlling. They start to change and manage their partner. This externalizing of core beliefs is a flawed belief system that's going to give them a false sense of superiority. It's going to give them a false sense of empowerment, but it is a way to protect themselves. So the ostrich will jump over the line in extreme stress and become a trainer. So the trainer is thinking, my partner expects impossible things. My partner is too much. My partner's crazy. My partner's unreasonable. My partner is so impossible. My only option is to give up. My partner deserves the silent treatment. That'll teach her. My partner will learn how to be more calm if I don't respond to her. My partner will learn to be less critical and demanding if I ignore them for a while and I just don't react. And ultimately, in the end, they feel entitled to treat their partner this way because of this externalizing feeling. I'm entitled to hurt my partner's feelings because my partner hurt me first. That's the vibe. The trainer will frequently believe that others are impossible or too much or unreasonable. They will defend themselves with aggressive insults toward the other person, like, you're being so OCD right now, right? Like, you're being crazy right now. Like, you're acting like a lunatic right now. They will feel that their partner deserves the silent treatment, that they can deliberately withhold attention and affection from them as a way to train them. Like, they think that these are methods to get their partner to be less demanding or critical of them, because remember, they're trying to protect themselves from perceived criticism and perceived insult. So if their partner, who is probably anxiously attached, is constantly telling them, like, you forgot to do this, I need you to do that, like their anxiously attached partner is escalating things, they are going to blame her for how they're feeling. The trainer might become hopeless. They might say, I just can't win with you. I'm going to give up trying because, like, I can't work with my partner. And in that situation, the expectation of ego insult is more endurable than unexpected ego insult. That's what type 1 will look like when they're externalizing. It's important to remember, you cannot heal from a place of externalizing. Everyone has to be in the internalizing category in order to heal. Frequently, when people are healing, they actually jump to volcano. Like, everyone becomes a volcano because they're trying to express their feelings that they've never really expressed before, but they don't know how to do this without escalating it. Like, it ends up escalating, and they don't understand the balance and how to actually go about it in a way that is securely attached and attuned. Avoidant type 2 is very similar in a lot of ways to type 1. However, instead of ego insult, they are afraid of ego obliteration. They're afraid of losing themselves in the relationship. When this type 2 avoidant is in the left column, internalizing their fears, they're called a loner. And loners will think and say things such as, I'm being attacked, I'm nothing, the other person is making me into nothing because they're smothering me. I need to get out of here. I'm being invaded, I'm being consumed, I'm being destroyed. I am safe if I stay stoic. So this can look like physically avoiding proximity to others and not making eye contact. They will ignore or tune other people out. They may have a knee-jerk reaction to refuse to do things that others ask them to do. Even if they say they'll do something, they ultimately just won't do it. They want to do things their way, even when others directly advocate for that other person's preference. And they will pride themselves on independence. Like, they'll never ask for anything, and they will be proud of it because they believe that stoicism protects them. They may shut down requests from others for help or engagement or interaction. They prefer to analyze instead of listening or feeling. And they will try to explain away or problem solve instead of listening to any sort of feelings. Now, if the loner starts to externalize and protect themselves from this fear of ego obliteration, they're going to try to blame their partner. They become a rescuer in this right column. So this person believes that fierce independence is the only valid way for them to be and to exist. They feel superior to those who have any sort of social or emotional needs or depend on people whatsoever. They think that is a weakness. So they will defend their entitlement to independence, and they sometimes will insult their partner, such as saying something like, you're so needy. They may think things like, I am superior to my partner because I am more independent. My partner is unreasonably needy or smothering, and my partner is emotionally weak. Like, emotional people are weak. That's where their thought process goes. And very similar to the trainer, they will think, my partner will learn how to be more independent if I don't respond or if I shut them out. And as a result of their partner asking for things, because when you're in a relationship, you ask for things, they believe their partner is needy and less than them. This false sense of superiority and entitlement is a way for them to protect themselves from their core fear. It is a faulty belief system. Both types of avoidance are more likely to drink in excess or to abuse substances because they're trying to numb, and it assists in emotional avoidance. There are similarities between the trainer and the rescuer. They both use avoidance and blame to deal with their feelings. The trainer's issue is with criticism and inadequacy, and the rescuer's issue is with control and emotional dependence. So the trainer externalizes by seeing their partner as unreasonable and punishing them for being critical. But the rescuer externalizes by seeing their partner as too needy and trying to fix them by enforcing independence. And like I said, you can move across the columns. You can also go across and then down. So that ostrich can become a rescuer in times of extreme stress, like they're super stressed out. You can also see the ostrich go one down and become a loner. The loner can become an ostrich. Like, people can move around the chart, and it's more common for the avoidance to move around one within their section, and it's more common for anxiously attached and disorganized to move within their section. So she has these little dashed lines in there where you see that movement. If we move on to anxious attachment, these folks do the opposite. They escalate feelings, emotions, and conflict. They want and feel like they deserve connection with their partner, but they expect to be ignored. Their fear is ego neglect. They worry that they're not going to be seen and heard. So what they do is they wave their arms in the air to their partner, and they're like, hey, I'm over here, look at me. I need to escalate everything in this relationship because I feel neglected. In these books, Shields refers to anxious attachment as reactive attachment because they are reacting to their partner pulling away in this type of attachment style. They strongly and directly pursue connection and conflict with other people because they were taught in their family of origin that you have to manage emotions. You have to do something in order to get them to go away, in order for them to be okay. You can't just be, you have to do. Their nervous systems expect connection and conflict to confirm that they are invisible, that they are unseen, that they are alone, that they are neglected. Anxiously attached people often feel this response without conscious awareness. Anxiously attached people are more attuned to the people outside of them. They are paying very close attention to other people's emotions, and they are not paying attention to their own. They don't know what's going on inside of them, and so they can't regulate themselves. Their method of protecting themselves from this distress of ego neglect is to pursue engagement and change from the other person. So they are attempting to modify and manage the outside world to alleviate their internal anxieties more than they attend to and alter their inner experience. They're not sitting with themselves. They're not asking themselves what they're feeling and what they're going through. And is this a feeling that's going to end? What's the beginning? What's the middle? What's the end? Like, how do I let it flow through my body? That's not what they're doing. They are instead saying, oh my gosh, you didn't text me back for like 4 hours. They are hyper focusing on how their partner is behaving, and they are allowing themselves to let that mean something to who they are as a person. They are allowing the not getting a text back to interfere with ego neglect. Like, they feel like they are being neglected and misunderstood and not seen. So they are attempting to manage and modify the outside world to alleviate their internal anxieties more than they attend to and alter their own inner experiences. If their partner responds to them, even if it's a fear-based response, and they accommodate their request, that quashes that feeling of invisibility and neglect. They feel okay in that moment. And they think that they're engaging in positive conflict resolution when in reality, they're not actually addressing the root cause of the issue. In their family system, when they were younger, the norm was to manage feelings. And so that meant that they actively had to do something to make the feeling go away. They had to accommodate it. They had to control it. This makes the anxiously attached person think, I cannot feel me independent of control or outside accommodations. I have to control everything around me in order for me to know myself, in order to feel me, in order for me to feel okay. So their nervous system is reacting to their environment, and their nervous system is like, things are not okay, sirens, 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 but it's just he was busy and he didn't text you back. There's actually no threat here. It has nothing to do with you. He just had no time to text you back. The anxiously attached person who is internalizing is called the volcano. They're holding back their needs, and then they aggressively pursue change. They suppress and then demand. Like, they are exploding at their partner. They define their connection with another person by how engaged they remain during conflict. They also define their connection with another person by how precisely and perfectly that other person accommodates their request, if they're receptive to their request. And so the volcano ends up micromanaging. They end up nitpicking about details that don't actually add value to the outcome of what they're trying to do. They may escalate things using their tone of voice. They may come off as indifferent. They may, like, a little subtle thing that they know will bother their partner a little bit, but they will escalate things that way. They may have aggressive body language. They may hover around their partner. They may angrily approach or lean in. Like, they may give sort of contemptuous facial expressions or like glare at their partner. And then they may show extreme anger responses when they feel misunderstood. Even if their partner was genuinely forgetful or distracted, such as with the text message, they will explode. And that's where the volcano metaphor comes in. So they're thinking, I'm alone, I'm invisible, what I say is ignored, what I want is ignored, I'm not considered, I'm not cared about, I'm neglected. I can make myself feel safe, I can fix this if I make myself louder, if I make myself bigger. They can't ignore me that way. That's where they're getting at. In times of extreme stress, this person externalizes to become the dictator, and you can see why they become a dictator, because they're managing in a lot more of an externalizing way. Their partner is now the problem in their mind because they're trying to protect themselves from that core fear of ego neglect by externalizing that fear. The dictator may believe that their way of doing things is the only reasonable way of doing things. They may demean their partner through insults such as loser, stupid, calling them those sorts of names. They may also have nonverbal indications of disgust, such as eye rolling, and they feel entitlement to not consider the other person's perspective. Like, they feel entitled to have all of the control and say how things are done because they think that they're doing it the right way, like their way is the right way. And at this point, they're not simply expecting to be neglected. Like, they actually expect abandonment. Like, they perceive others' behavior as proof that they are not loved or wanted. It's a pretty extreme response. So the dictator is going to think things like, I'm the only one that does anything right around here. My partner has nothing valuable to contribute. My partner is dumb. My partner is a loser. My partner just doesn't do anything right. My partner disappoints me. They're selfish. They're evil. My partner doesn't see me. My partner doesn't care. I am only safe if I micromanage and control, and I'm only safe if I control my partner. It's okay if I force force my partner to see me by raising my voice. I'm entitled to hurt my partner's feelings because my partner hurt my feelings. That's what the dictator is thinking about. And last but not least, we have disorganized attachment, which is also referred to as fearful avoidant in other contexts, just so you're aware. These folks are showing patterns of both distancing themselves in their relationship from their partners, as well as pursuing and escalating conflict and emotion. They are afraid of ego abandonment. And this is a result of having that type 1 avoidance of fear of ego insult and the anxiously attached fear of ego neglect. When you combine them, you get fear of ego abandonment because you feel defective and you think that they don't see you and they're just going to leave. She also says that people with disorganized attachment often are caused by more severe environmental trauma along with this very sensitive temperament. And so sometimes people with this style of attachment have complex PTSD where their traumatic relationship experiences altered their social emotional development. They also usually have some sort of anxiety disorder. So people with disorganized attachment, she also calls them preoccupied because they are preoccupied with determining whether they're going to be abandoned by their partner. They may come off looking avoidant, but the difference is their internal experience, because on the outside, they're giving their partner distance, but on the inside, they're freaking out. Like they're looking for evidence of whether their partner is going to stay or leave. That is why Shields calls them the tester. I think it's more helpful to think of them as the monitor because they're not actually giving literal tests. They're simply monitoring their partner's behavior very closely and coming up with like meaning of what their partner does and whether that means they're going to abandon them or not. So they will frequently mask as not caring or having any needs because they fear that if they tell their partner they have needs, their partner's gonna be like, oh, she's too much. And like, I'm gonna get out of here. Like, she's a lot. But at the same time, they are pursuing connection. They want to confirm connection in a way that is not vulnerable. So they're not doing what the Volcano is doing. They're not like, hey, over here. They are checking text messages. They're checking his location. They're asking unreasonably invasive questions to see if their partner answers. Like, oh, does he trust me with this information? These tests may look something like, I'll ignore my partner and see how long it takes him to notice, right? Like, they won't directly express their needs, like something's bothering them and they won't tell their partner as a securely attached person would. Instead, they're going to be like, I'm just going to ignore them and see if they care about me enough to ask what's wrong. That's the vibe. They also have a tendency to expect others to mind read or like to just get it as evidence that they won't be abandoned. Like, you should just know how I'm feeling. Otherwise, you're going to leave me. Like, you don't actually love me. They see mistakes or forgetfulness or misunderstandings, like general human things, as evidence of abandonment. And then they may react with extreme anger or they may withdraw extremely. Like they may go either way, anxious or avoidant. They also have a tendency to rigidly categorize others as either good or bad so they can try to anticipate whether or not they will be abandoned by those people. This is actually kind of a result of their family system because they probably experienced a very chaotic environment as a child, and they were also just a more sensitive child. So they felt like they had to try to put everything into categories of either good or bad in order to feel comfortable, in order to know what was coming. So they were taught as a child that their job in the family is to analyze and fixate on their caretakers. Like, okay, is this a good or bad situation? Like, how do I have to react in this situation? Should I pull into myself or do I need to get more attention? So they may think something like, I'm being rejected, I'm worthless, I'm discardable, I'm being abandoned, I'm not heard, I'm not listened to. I am safe if I figure out their true intentions. I am safe if I figure out what they think of me. I'm safe if they're near me. And they are constantly having these fears and preoccupied by this anxious concern that they're going to be abandoned. But again, they don't show that on the outside. Their partners are really confused because she comes off as chill, cool girl, and then out of nowhere, she's freaking out. So when this person is externalizing, meaning they are pushing their core fear away and their core belief comes in that they have the right to control their partner because their partner is the problem, this person becomes the puppet master. They start to think, my partner should automatically do what I want no matter what. My partner exists to alleviate my pain. Who cares what my partner is experiencing? I'm hurting. That turns into, I'm entitled to hurt my partner's feelings even if they don't hurt me first. I'm safe if I don't show consideration or caring for my partner. My partner should anticipate my needs without me expressing them. The puppet master can look like a lot of different things. They may dissociate to the point where they do not believe they want connection or have needs anymore. And that's why they're so commonly confused with avoidant attachment. But they are actually really internally preoccupied with whether or not their partner will be there, whereas avoidant people don't feel that way. They may set up unreasonable or impossible demands to test whether someone's going to accommodate them as proof that they will not be abandoned. So this can look like asking a monogamous partner for a one-sided open relationship, or asking their partner to work less hours so they can spend more time together, but then refusing to decrease their spending. They may pursue control to prove to themselves that this other person cares about them and come up with really unreasonable requests. And they think like, okay, if they're willing to accommodate that unreasonable request, that means that they must care about me and they're not going to abandon me. This can also look like acting very childish to get their partner to do more caretaking for them. The puppet master sincerely believes that they are entitled to control others to alleviate their own anxiety, because their core belief becomes others exist for me. Shields also says that the puppet master sometimes has like autism or OCD that's undiagnosed. And so this person is very internally dysregulated, and the way they control themselves, they're trying to deal with their own dysregulation. So they will hyper control themselves and they'll do that to someone else. Like it's just how they are as a person. Okay, we've talked for a while about all this stuff. Congrats to getting to this section. Now let's talk about healing. If you and your partner have engaged with patterns of repeated conflict over a period of time, you likely have conditioned each other's nervous system to expect danger from the other person. You are on edge. Fear is going to begin the cycle of conflict. Safety is what is going to end it. I've been saying the word attune, attune, attune. What does attunement mean? Attunement is intentional, calm, and alert focus on your partner. You're giving them positive attention. At its very core, what's happening here is the ratio to unpleasant and pleasant interactions is like this, right? So like that golden boy with ostrich tendencies is up here perceiving thousands of little digs and criticisms every single week, and very few actual pleasant connection moments. Like they're just not registering. They may be there, but he is not actually remembering them. The same with the parentified girl who is anxiously attached, and every time she goes a few hours without getting a text message or feels neglected, like she is registering that, but she's not actually registering the positive moments of connection. And so what attunement does is it allows both partners to be conscious in how they are interacting with one another. You want to make sure that you are staying present with your partner. You're not reacting from distress. You're not giving a stress response. You are instead mirroring back to them. You're reflecting back with them. You are showing that you are present in what they're talking about with both your verbal and nonverbal communication skills. Attunement has 3 steps. First, you're going to locate your partner. You're physically going to make undistracted eye contact. You're going to remove the electronics. You're going to be present. Men have a tendency to not want to look at the person that they're talking to, whereas women do. So just make sure you're looking at your partner. That's the first step. Second step, maintain calm alertness. Do not react from distress. Just allow the feelings to exist. Be present. And then the third thing is focus on their words and their nonverbal cues without judgment. Shields says attunement has to be practiced regularly. So people with anxious or disorganized attachment styles have to attune to themselves first, because they have to practice paying attention to their own internal experience. They are more likely to be attuned to their partners just more naturally in everyday life. It comes more effortlessly to them because that's what they've been doing their whole life. They've been managing other people's feelings their whole lives. But what they don't realize is that they are more comfortable managing the outside world than their own stuff. Like they have to figure out how to get in touch with their internal experience and their internal distress. Disorganized attached people are the same way, except they don't always show it on the outside. They have the same internal experience as anxiously attached people, but they're coming off as avoidantly attached. So while anxiously and disorganized people need to attune to themselves first in a disagreement, avoidant people need to do the opposite. They need to attune to their partner. Avoidants struggle with this because they are automatically disconnected from others. So regardless of your attachment style, she does recommend that you visualize some sort of conflict with your partner and try to imagine the situation in as much detail as you can. For people who are anxiously attached, she wants those people in the visualization to shift their attention inward. Like scan your body for tension. Notice any of the fearful or the unhelpful beliefs. Take a deep breath. Sort of hug yourself internally. Sit with that discomfort. Sit with the feeling. This is the practice of self-attunement. The anxious person's job is to not react in the moment, to not have those stress responses, to not try to manage the situation, to just let their avoidant partner be. That's what they're bad at. That's what anxiously attached people are bad at. You don't have to do, just be. Anxiously and disorganized attached people can ask themselves this when they are struggling in a difficult conversation with their partner. The first is it possible that I can endure this icky feeling in this conflict without making the situation worse by escalating it or by giving off any nonverbal indication of condemnation or disgust? That's the first question. Can I just sit with the icky feeling? The second question is it possible that while this attack feels like catastrophically meaningful to my well-being, is it possible that that story I've applied, that catastrophic meaning, is no longer accurate? Like, can I sit with the possibility that this old story is not serving me? Now, avoidantly attached people, she has different recommendations for them. So the visualization for avoidance is to come home, imagine they find their partner on the couch. Like, really go look for their partner in your eye, in your home. You see your partner there, and you don't stop until you find your partner. Because again, avoidants are really bad at attuning to other people. They sort of block out other people and stay with themselves. And they're gonna ask themselves the same questions. Is it possible that I'm willing to endure this icky feeling without withdrawing, without defending? I'm not gonna make it worse by running away the way I usually do. And is it possible that this meaningful catastrophic feeling that I have that feels very life or death no longer applies here? She basically says to avoidants, like, the next time you engage with your partner in connection or conflict, remember that your nervous system will be hypervigilant to the threat of criticism, of attack, of smothering, of anything like that. Like, you can fight that fear because it's not rooted in reality. The threat is not there. It is your nervous system trying to make you think it is. So going back to the ratio thing, we're trying to decrease the number of negative experiences and interactions that the nervous system and the brain registers by being mindful. That's what this is, mindfulness, and mindful of how we are reacting. But we also want to increase the noticing of positive experiences with your partner. And the way Shields recommends you do this is that every time you approach your partner or walk into a room where your partner is there, find something to appreciate about your partner out loud. She also talks a lot about reflecting back to what you heard your partner say. Just acknowledging that they said something is a really big deal. So someone might say, I've been working so much this week, and then the other partner will be like, you have been working a lot this week. You don't have to ask a question. You just repeat back what they said. Just acknowledge that you heard them. And that's part of attunement. The other thing that's really important is to notice your own unpleasant emotions and to not shut down and not avoid, especially if you're avoidant. Don't try to escalate if you're anxious. Use I statements followed by a direct request in a casual tone. So an example from her book is, it's so dark in here, I can't even read the book. The light bothers the crap out of me in this room. That's why all the lights are off. You've gotten to this point in the video, so you're cool, and I'm gonna give you the behind the scenes. Okay, so instead of holding in or exploding out your frustration that your partner is sleeping in every Saturday, you vulnerably say, hey, I miss you, and I wanna spend more time doing things together when we aren't working. Can we take a bike ride together this Saturday morning before we get our days started? That's an example of an I statement. I miss you, and I would love to spend more time together when we're not working. And then the request comes in, can we take a bike ride on Saturday? Instead of just being like, oh my God, you're always sleeping in and we never have time to see each other. Like, that could be the alternative of getting frustration. You're blaming that other person for sleeping in on Saturday when you didn't even express that you wanted them not to do that. Another tactic she recommends is offering support with confidence. So when your partner is feeling a very intense feeling that you want to avoid, to manage, to judge, you need to stop, freeze right there, take a deep breath, tell your nervous system it's going to be okay. And then give them the statement of support and confidence. Because what's happening is your partner is having a really terrible experience and you are also afraid. And so you might start to dismiss away their feeling. You might start explaining away their feeling if you're an avoidant, or you might start trying to manage away their feeling. The statement of support is essentially a way of saying, I cannot rescue you from this horrible, icky human experience, but I feel for you and I am right here with you. It's not escalating the feeling. It's not enabling avoidance. It's just letting the feeling exist. So here's an example from the book. I know you have so much work on your plate tonight and it's so overwhelming. I wish I could wave a magic wand and make your deadline disappear, but I know you've got this. Another example. I know it feels like your mom is going to squish you like a bug when you tell her something she doesn't want to hear, but I know you can get through 30 seconds long enough to nod and smile and make your exit. Very common experiences of feeling overworked and having to deal with a difficult parent. You don't have to make it go away. You just have to acknowledge that they are in a difficult situation. It feels icky. The partner understands that, and the partner is right there with them. Shields also said that she got a question about how to balance healthy acceptance versus being a doormat. So essentially, people were having trouble understanding where's the line between being a doormat but also like emotionally regulating and letting some things go. Like, how do I know what when I'm doing it right, so to speak? And Shields said that she used to say like, use your emotions as a barometer, but she didn't understand why that wasn't working. She realized that people with trauma, people who like were deeply hurt, who not used to safety, just lacked an internal barometer at all. They didn't know how to tolerate distress at all. Any level of negative or unpleasant emotion was too much for them. Because remember, securely attached people are able to sort of let go when their partner is doing a little bit too much, when their partner is acting in a way that is not securely attached, is getting defensive, is getting avoidant, is managing, is doing something. The securely attached person does not take it personally because the securely attached person understands I am me, my partner is my partner. But for people with insecure attachment, people who do not have experience regulating their emotions in this way, any amount of distress is overwhelming at first. And so she gave people the guideline, let go of 20%. In times of conflict, ignore 20% of what your partner is saying. And now obviously 20% is not an actual figure. Like there's no mathematics going into this. 20% is a feeling, but it's a small enough number that most people are like, yeah, I can let go of 20%. That doesn't feel like doormat territory. I'm still in control 80%, but it's just a feeling. So if your partner's in a bad mood, if your partner is giving some sassy responses, if they're getting defensive, just like let go of 20%, bend 20%. And then as a result of that, what ends up happening is that the receiving partner starts to get less defensive as well, because partner A, the pursuer, the one who's like, how much do I let go? 20%. Okay. Partner A is like, let's chill out a little bit. And they're giving off a more calm demeanor and not engaging in some sort of insecure attachment, like stress response. And so as a result, partner B is decreasing defensiveness. They feel less controlled. They feel less anxiety. And they're starting to feel moments where they genuinely enjoy each other. And then soon, partner A is able to let go of the 30% without catastrophizing because they genuinely feel better. They genuinely feel safer in the relationship. So 30% doesn't feel like a doormat either. And so this begins a wonderful cycle of strengthening the relationship and making them feel safer with one another. It's regulating their nervous systems. Now you may be thinking, I'm not in a relationship right now. How do I practice this stuff? Okay, so she gives you a few suggestions. Mindfulness is the ultimate suggestion. Mindfulness is about noticing what thoughts and sensations enter your mind and your body without adding judgment or without adding meaning to it. Because that's what this is all about. We're adding meaning to little things that happened with our partner, and that leads to conflict or withdrawal. And that's the problem. And so if you are trying to heal an attachment style without a partner, you can still notice your tendencies within yourself. The idea is to make it a habit to take notice of your thoughts and sensations earlier in the process and with more distance before they start to spiral into assumptions and catastrophe, where you start to internalize it as meaning something about ego, right? Like that ego insult, the ego obliteration, that whole thing. You want to distance yourself from any meanings that and catastrophizing that comes into your head and body now. And she says, try to practice mindfulness for a few minutes every single day, several times a day. And eventually you will notice your thoughts and assumptions and sensations more naturally. Because right now, if you have an insecure attachment style, you are also not attuned to yourself. You don't know what's going on in yourself. You are not aware of your thoughts and your feelings as they are right now. And you're reacting in stress response kind of ways, which are causing conflict. To continue on the solo treatment thing, she also recommends seeking out therapy or medication if you have anxiety or PTSD or a traumatic experience of some kind. Obviously, she can't prescribe that for everybody, but she says like it's worth considering if you have that history. She also says that somatic practices, breathing, really helps regulate the nervous system, and she actually put a resource in the book that I will link in the description. Finally, she also talks about self-care, but she calls self-care nesting behaviors, which I actually really like. She says they engage in effortful, gentle, not always fun routines that are in service to your future self. That doesn't always have to do with your relationship. Let's say you're trying to get basics down, like you want to normalize your sleep schedule and you want to eat a healthy lunch every day. Pick one. Like if you like nail the sleep schedule before you worry about the lunch, that sort of thing. Be gentle with yourself. If you're trying to be more active, why don't you try like going for a walk, gentle walk every day before you start training for the 5K, right? Just do little things for yourself that are in service of your future self. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for getting to the end. You're a rock star. This has been a doozy of a video. I'm going to put a playlist up of my favorite intentional dating videos if that's something you're into. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps me out like so much. And again, thank you for being here and for watching. Bye.